Timothy chapter 2. But before we get into that, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. The result, verse 7, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That deals specifically with our circumstances, things that cause us to be anxious, things that are often outside of our control. What are we supposed to do? Well, we're commanded to be anxious for nothing, to roll this back to the Lord with prayer and supplication, and then even with thanksgiving. That it's not something that we give thanks after God has answered, but before he even does anything with it. The question is, those are circumstances. What about people? How do I deal with people and the anxiety or things that they cause me in my life and their actions or their choices? How am I supposed to deal with those? Paul, again in 1 Timothy, says, therefore I exhort first of all that supplication, prayers, and intercessions and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. The same way that we are to deal with circumstances is the same way that we're supposed to deal with people. With supplication, prayers, intercessions, that idea of coming alongside of someone and lifting them up, and giving of thanks be made for all men. And that applies to, verse 2, kings and all who are in authority as well. The fruit of those things, it says that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. The effects of others can deter us in our walk from the Lord if we're unwilling to let them go and give them back to the Lord. You can't control people. You'll live in bitterness and strife, trying to control people for the rest of your life. Paul commands Timothy to, with supplication, prayers, and intercessions, give thanks for those around him, for kings and authorities, and for all men, so that he can live that quiet, peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. And so my encouragement to you is this: if you are walking in a way where you feel like people are having a bigger effect on you than they should, what is your attitude towards them? Are you thankful for the people that God has put in your life, even if they are hard to deal with? Lift others up. They're inside of your sphere of influence for a reason. Whether they need to be reached for the gospel, whether they need to be brought back to Christ, or whether they're just wayward Christians, they need to be lifted up in prayer. Pray for those around you.